Hmm. We both teach sociology of the family, right? You have a
Yes, yes,
class. Yeah. So I teach sociology of the family, and part of our training as sociologists is trying to get these students to understand things institutionally. So always, what's the
yes.
connection between this social issue, this identity, this topic, and institutions? And so basically, all of our powerful social institutions are heavily reliant on this heterosexual norm. And so we think about church, of course, that's obvious, education, the military, the government, every institution is part of structuring this normativity.
I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, that was going to be my answer as well, is when you start to, the more you strip away like the illusory nature of society and the mythologies about how things are supposed to be, then the greater threat there is to those institutions, which have in the modern day, historically, but even more so in the modern day, have been used as forces of domination and oppression, social stratification, um, uh, differential treatment under the law, racism, sexism, everything. Those institutions continue to support that in an underlying value system that hasn't changed.
And so that's based on identity. So that puts the patriarchy right at the center of this heterosexual family.
Yes,
Props up
yes,
the male power. The male is the patriarch of the family. It's his line that where we get the power from the family. You take the man's name to the
yes,
wife, child. The wife is just she, a marriage is two people becoming one, and that one is the man. And so
yes,
women historically have lost all their legal rights upon marriage, and so they become submissive, subservient, piece of property to the man, as are the children. And then this also in the U.S. really upholds white supremacy too. We look at anti-miscegenation laws, which made it a crime for a white
yes,
person to marry someone of color. Of course, people of color are already contaminated, and it doesn't matter if they
yes,
marry amongst each
yes,
other. It's to keep that purity. And going back to the patriarchy, I mean, it's about male property ownership, and so you have to make sure those children are in fact the male property and the proper descendants, and that some other man didn't get in there. And so it's the man ensuring his property and hold on these children, and then it's the upholding of this white supremacy. When you have a feminist analysis on the family, then things really kind of look differently.